We've all been seeing the headlines, right? The Indian rupee is hitting record lows. But what's really going on behind all those numbers? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig deep into the real forces pulling the rupee down and give you the full story.
Okay, let's just jump straight into the stark reality of it. It's 2025, and the rupee has plunged to a historic low, touching nearly 90 against the US dollar. No joke. This has made it one of the worst performing currencies in Asia this year.
And that's the big question, isn't it? It just feels off. We keep hearing that the economy's growing, so why on earth is the currency getting weaker? That's the exact puzzle we're going to solve together today.
So let's break this whole thing down. To really get a grip on what's happening, we're going to walk through 4 big reasons behind this decline. You're about to see it's not just one thing, but a perfect storm of powerful forces coming from both inside India and all around the world.
First up, our first major cause, something called the trade deficit. Now, this is a really fundamental idea in economics, and believe me, it has a massive, massive impact on a country's currency.
So what in the world is a trade deficit? Well, to put it really simply, it's when a country, in this case India, is spending more foreign money on stuff it's buying from other countries than it's earning from the stuff it sells to them. More money going out than coming in.
And here's how that actually plays out. To buy essential imports like crude oil or the latest technology, India has to pay in US dollars. But at the same time, if its own exports are facing hurdles, like say US tariffs, it's earning fewer dollars. So you've got more dollars leaving the country than coming in. Basic supply and demand, right? That high demand for dollars makes the rupee weaker.
Okay, let's get to our second key factor, and this one is all about what investors are doing with their money. A whole lot of foreign cash, specifically from what we call foreign portfolio investors, or FPIs, has been pulled out of the Indian market. So, why are they all running for the exit? Well, it really boils down to a global mood of, well, fear and uncertainty. When big money investors get nervous about the world economy, they tend to pull their cash out of markets they see as a bit riskier, and they run towards what they consider safe haven investments. This global risk-off attitude puts a ton of direct downward pressure on the rupee. And this leads us right to reason number 3, which is so important, because it shows that this isn't just an India problem. The rupee is basically caught in the middle of some incredibly powerful global economic storms that are, for the most part, totally outside of India's control. And the biggest global factor of all? A powerhouse US dollar. You see, the US has been raising its interest rates. That means investors can get a better and safer return just by parking their money over there. This flood of capital into the US makes the dollar incredibly strong against pretty much every other currency out there. And that includes our rupee.
And finally, let's talk about the role of India's own central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, or the RBI. The approach they're taking right now is a really crucial piece of this whole puzzle.
You know, in the past, a central bank might have jumped in and spent billions of dollars from its reserves to artificially prop up the currency, but the RBI is taking a different path this time. They are largely letting the market, all those forces of trade and investment we just talked about, decide the rupee's true value. This means the currency is now a more honest reflection of all those real global pressures.
Okay, so we've just covered the 4 big reasons. Now, let's circle all the way back to that head-scratcher from the beginning. If the Indian economy is growing, why in the world is the currency falling? Let's solve this thing.
It's a totally fair question to ask. It feels logical, right? A growing GDP should mean a strong economy, and a strong economy should mean a strong currency. Well, it's just not that simple.
And here is the absolute key to understanding this. GDP and the value of the rupee are measuring 2 completely different things. GDP is all about the health of the domestic economy, how much stuff is being made and sold inside the country. But a currency's value, that's decided by global factors, things like trade, international investment, and how it stacks up against other currencies, especially that super strong US dollar. A healthy domestic economy just can't always shield its currency from powerful storms happening outside its borders.
Okay, so we've covered the why, but now it's time for the so what. I mean, who really cares? Because this isn't just about numbers on a screen. A weaker rupee creates real-world winners and losers, and that definitely includes you.
Now this might surprise you, but a weaker rupee isn't bad news for everybody. In fact, Indian exporters are some of the biggest winners. Think about it. They sell their goods and get paid in strong dollars. When they bring that money back home and convert it into rupees, they get way more than they did before. Plus, it makes their products cheaper for foreign buyers, which is great for business.
But on the other side of the coin, there's a much, much longer list of people who are feeling the pain. If you buy an imported phone, or even just fill up your car with gas that comes from imported crude oil, your costs are going up. For students studying in another country, or anyone planning a trip abroad, their budget in rupees now buys them a whole lot less. And all of this can trickle down and lead to higher inflation. Mangai, across the board.
So that's the complicated picture of where things stand right now. But after breaking all that down, the obvious question is, what's next? Where does the rupee go from here?
Well, the road ahead really depends on all those global factors we've been talking about. If the US dollar stays king and oil prices stay high, the pressure on the rupee is probably going to continue. But a recovery is absolutely possible. If global investors start feeling more confident and that foreign money starts flowing back into India, and if that trade deficit starts to shrink, things could definitely turn around.
Look, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The story of the rupee's fall isn't a simple tale of a weak economy. Not at all. It's a complex cocktail of global trade, the way big money moves around the world, the incredible power of the US dollar, and the specific policy choices being made right here at home. And that leaves us with one last and maybe most important thought. Understanding why this is happening is the first step. The next is figuring out what you can actually do about it. So how can you shield your own finances or your business from these wild swings? We're going to dive into exactly that in our next explainer. Thanks for joining us.